All right, next question. This is also about the Jets. What's the best landing spot for the Jets wide receiver Denzel Mims? I think there's some whispers out there that he could be available this offseason in a trade. What could Gangrene get in return for him? I am going to start this off. Now, Denzel Mims, I think, is a very talented wide receiver. I've actually watched him slice the Patriots up on a few occasions. So he has some ability, but his best those have been like his best games. His entire career, he hasn't caught a touchdown pass. He has 31 receptions for 490 yards over, what is 2 seasons. He's only played in 10 I'm sorry, only played in 16 games. 9 games as a rookie, 7 games this year. So he hasn't made a huge impact. But you'd have to be crazy not to look at him and go 6'3", 210, 15 pounds, athletic, strong, fast, all of that stuff, right? But he really hasn't done anything at all. You could blame inconsistent quarterback play. You can blame quarterbacks being hurt. You can blame a lot of that stuff, but he has not done it. So for me, if they are going to trade him, I understand. But if you're asking me what can you get for Denzel Mims, I think any team would be out of their minds to give you anything more than like a 6th-round pick for him. I mean, you got to look, he's not even what you would call a young third-year player going into it. So he was a 23-year-old rookie. He's 24 now, just turned 24. He'll turn 25 close to the beginning of next season because he turns 25 in October. He's not a young guy by third-year player standards. And like I said, the production is not significant. I'm going to bring somebody up who we talk about often. And I'm going to tell you, he doesn't blow this guy out of the water, and their experience level is similar. Do you know that N'Keal Harry has been in the league? This is N'Keal Harry's 3rd season. N'Keal Harry has 53 receptions in 2.5 seasons. Denzel Mims has 31 receptions in 2 seasons. So and he hasn't found the end zone. N'Keal Harry has 4 touchdown receptions, and he's found a way to make himself a solid contributor as a blocker. So to me, Denzel Mims is even worse than N'Keal Harry if you're talking about trade value, because what has he done that would suggest to you that you would get more for him than you would for N'Keal freaking Harry? So I understand about talent and all of those things, but these are guys who look like all pros in t-shirts and shorts, but in shoulder pads and helmets, they haven't been that. So for me, anything more than a 6th-round pick is probably just an asinine trade offer. What do you say, Mr. Reyna?
I'm going to give 2 potential suitors involving Denzel Mims that, with the change of scenery, this might help. Carolina has a head coach who used to be at Baylor. Denzel Mims went to Baylor. Maybe that connection can restart Denzel Mims' career. Maybe Carolina could work out a deal where they send maybe a late draft pick, like as you mentioned, a 6th-rounder, maybe a high 4th-rounder. Maybe they could send that in exchange for Denzel Mims. Maybe a Baylor reunion in Carolina could help. But I'm also going to add one more suitor, potentially, that could help Denzel Mims. The Raiders. Here's the reason why. You could, we talked about in the last subject, the Jets perhaps needing a shutdown corner. I mentioned Derek Stingley, just needing secondary help in general. Damon Arnett has been a bust for the Raiders. Why not ship him away to the Jets in the event you don't get Stingley and maybe get Denzel Mims in exchange?
He's cut, just a heads up.
He did? Okay.
Yeah, he got cut a couple weeks back.
Damon Arnett did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, he's out there.
Yep, he got released.
There's plenty of
after an incident involving a gun. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so he I think you may have jumped the gun a little bit there, Lorenzo.
No pun intended. No pun intended.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know, man. when you have guys who underachieve on that level, I know when you drafted them as high as the second round, there is this tendency to try to get something in return for them. And if you can, you do. But I think one of the things that's really tough for NFL front offices to do is just to just admit we missed. We missed. And to cut their losses and to move on and say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and we're going to let this guy go. And I mean, obviously, sometimes you have to check where the dead money is, and because sometimes it's not just simply not cost efficient to just cut a guy. But if it is, you got to do that. If you, I mean, and at this point, yeah, I know you spent the second round pick on him, but if you weigh the level of production that you're getting from him, I actually find it sometimes to be a worthwhile gamble if you can flip the guy for any sort of a draft pick, 6th or 7th round pick, because we've seen teams turn 6th or 7th round picks into productive guys and who are contributors, which is more than what Denzel Mims is doing for the Jets right now. So I don't know. We'll see. What about you, Sunito?
Yeah, I'll bring up a couple things though with Mims because he's been, underwhelming as a Jet, but he did have a COVID battle just now, so that really hurt his, development. And you have to remember, I think he had like an illness too. He had like bad salmon or something, food poisoning, and he lost like 15 pounds, so that completely hurt him too. So a lot of unlucky factors, come into play with Mims, and of course he has other wide receivers in front of him, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, etc. But I think Mims, I wouldn't just rule out, his future with the Jets, because I think these next couple of weeks are going to be the biggest of his life, I think, because Corey Davis is out. He has a core issue. He's going to need surgery. You have Elijah Moore. You have Keelan Cole and Jameson Crowder, but Mims can easily fit in there as well. So I think these next couple of weeks, you play the Saints, you play the Jaguars in the future. These are the next weeks that really determine his future. So I'm not going to rule him out just yet. But I think a key scenario for Mims, if he were to be traded, I think I'd pick the Ravens. Because I'm looking at a lot of mock drafts with the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm seeing wide receiver. I feel like that's what people do with the Ravens all the time. They need a wide receiver this year, and never happens. Well, last year they did get Bateman, but they barely played him too. I think he had less than 50% of snaps in his last game, so they barely used him. I think Duvernay was like the second most in terms of snaps. I think Marquise Brown is the obvious number one. Watkins 46%. So they really don't have a good wide receiver, core. So I think if they were to get a wide receiver, they always go the athletic route. But with Mims, he's more of like a big body, get into the end zone, even though he has no touchdowns in his career. But in Baylor, that's what he was. You can easily get that in Mims. And I think Baltimore would trade probably a 5th or a 6th. I know Douglas likes to, swindle teams in terms of trades, but I'd say probably a 5th rounder could do it for Mims. And I think Baltimore, why not? I mean, Baltimore, you give Lamar Jackson another guy to work with. I think that could be a good fit.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I know this was a lopsided trade, and Patriots kind of put themselves in a bad situation. But I mean, Stephon Gilmore just went for like a 5th or 6th round pick. Stephon Gilmore goes for a 5th or 6th round pick.
I get that, but I think his contract had a lot to do with it. I mean, and also
I think that's what it was. Yeah,
it definitely did, and then he's injured as well.
Pending free agent too.
And he's a pending free agent, but I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. He hasn't done anything. Mm-hmm. So, what say you, Mr. Ezen?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off Ryan, and I'm going to say Baltimore. When I close my eyes, everything about it, from a physicality standpoint, the size, obviously you mentioned, he has 4.3 speed. People forget about that coming out of Baylor.
No, yeah, I know about
it. Yeah. And, unfortunately, they wrote a book series about him. It's a series of unfortunate events, and that's exactly what this entire year has been for Mr. Denzel Mims. He had the COVID battle, as Ryan alluded to. He had food poisoning, and another factor people don't consider is the Jets switch coaches. So it's a brand new offensive staff that came in and is asking to do completely different things than the original coaching staff asked him to do. You guys are probably going to, crap all over me when I'm about to say what I believe the compensation will be for Mr. Denzel Mims. I think it's way higher than what you guys are saying, but ultimately the proof will be in the pudding. of the matter is, at the trade deadline, there was somewhere between 10 and 12 teams who called the Jets asking about Denzel Mims. That sounds like a lot more than a 6th or 7th round pick to me. And Joe Douglas has a history of getting the most juice out of the orange squeeze. I believe we're going to see something like some combination of a 3rd and maybe a conditional 4 that can become a 3 playing.
What?
You guys, remember this. December 7th, we're recording live. When Mims gets traded this offseason, if he's not, again, I also want to say this, to Ryan's point, is he has 5 games here to prove his worth. And if he shows pop, he's going to be one of the 3 starting receivers next year. And if he doesn't, then they're going to trade. But remember this conversation, remember this date, remember Boy Green, and everything I say is a spoiler alert. When you factor all that in, you're going to remember what I said here, boys, is that Denzel Mims is going to go a lot higher than what people have shown. Just remember, Paul said that first. Thank you very much. But Baltimore, I think, is a great fit.
I think that the trade will probably be announced hours after CJ Mosley accepts the Comeback Player of the Year award.
Yeah, right.
I think it might be in conjunction with that, but it just is what it is. No problem.